Hi guys, and welcome to Dee's Media World. Here I am with part 3 of the things I've learned since turning 25. So this one is actually just three more I have, and it's travel. The first one, number 16, is travel isn't just for retirement, it's for the young too. So growing up, I have a whole thing about travel. Growing up, travel was always seen as something you waited to do when you were old or you were retired and you had this money, and after you bought your house or paid off your house, after your kids gone to college, after all this stuff, then you could travel, then you could see the world. And I don't know why we still hang on to that belief, especially now. Millennials don't. I'm a millennial, obviously, but we no longer hold on to that belief that travel is for the old, when it really is for the young too. In fact, it makes more sense to travel when you're young because you have the physical capacity to travel. You can stay on a plane, for 14 hours and recover faster than you would if you're in your 50s. Two, you are less liable for problems that you would have when you're older. Like, the thing is, waiting until you're 50, 60, whatever, to retire and wait and then travel, you're putting a lot on the line there. Like, you're risking a lot, because when you're 50, 60, whatever years old, you're assuming that you will be mentally and physically capable of traveling, that you won't have family members that you will have to take care of and worry about, and including your own children that you may or may not have. Like, you're assuming a lot. You're also assuming that you won't be dead by that time, not to be morbid, but you are assuming that you will live long enough to your 60s, 70s, whatever, to travel. It kind of goes back to this idea of that I mentioned in the first video, which is asking the question, why not, instead of why. Why wait? And in all honesty, why not do it now instead of asking, well, why wait? That's kind of silly, in my opinion, when it comes to travel, is to wait till you're basically tired, possibly sick, dead, whatever, to try and do something you always wanted to do. It makes sense in your 20s to travel the world, and especially now when you can live overseas and have a full-time job with benefits. It makes sense to live overseas now when you're young. Do it before you have family, before you get married, before you do all this other stuff. When you're independent and single and young and all this stuff, why wait till you're old to do it? Seriously. Number 17, in terms of travel, the people who encourage you to travel are usually the ones who have actually done it. I have seen this so many times. People who don't want you to travel are ones who don't do it themselves. Those are the naysayers. Those are the people who are afraid. And you'll see this yourself. When someone tells you not to travel, not to go to that country, not to do this, and I'm talking about generally, like they're shutting it down, they don't want you to do it at all. Those are usually the people who have not done it themselves, would not do it themselves, would never do it themselves. And I realized that people who've done a lot of traveling, who've gone to many countries, who have done this, that, and the third, they're the ones who are the biggest encouragers. They're the ones who are like, yeah, you should go to China. Yeah, you should go to Egypt. Yeah, you should do this. Because I did it and it was awesome and yada yada. And in other aspects of life, that may not be the case, but for some reason to travel, the people who are telling you to do it the most are the ones who actually do it themselves and love it. They want to spread that joy. They want to spread that knowledge. They want to spread it, far and wide. They want you to do the same thing they're doing, especially if you're a person of color. They want to see more persons of color traveling and going overseas and spreading their own influences or your own influences to others, doing all this stuff. Like, so when you hear some people say, like, oh, don't go to Brazil because they have the Zika virus, it's da-da-da. Those are normally the people who would never go to Brazil anyway. So it's really easy for them to say, don't go, because they wouldn't go. People who move to Brazil, who live to Brazil. I know people right now who are moving to those countries, to Costa Rica, to Brazil, and whatnot. They're not worried about that kind of stuff. They currently live there now. They're fine. The Zika virus and things like that are usually out of control anyway. Of course, be wary, but honestly, usually when it comes to the media in other countries, they typically blow it out of proportion because they don't want you to leave. But I'm not going to go into that right now. My main point is that the people who encourage you to travel are usually the ones who do it themselves. And in other aspects of life, that might not be the case. But when it comes to travel, for some reason, people are usually pretty honest. If you sit down and talk to them, if you read blogs, if you do your research, you watch videos, they will say the pros and cons of being black in one country, of being a woman in this country, of doing this, that, and the third. Just pay attention to that stuff. but you're definitely going to get some encouragement along the way from people who actually do them themselves. So the last one I have for travel, and it'll be the end of this video for part 3, is it's not totally about travel. It has to do more with volunteering experiences and accomplishments. And the importance of this is to write down all your volunteer experiences, your travel documents, your accomplishments when it comes to anything along those lines for the future, because those things will always come back in a way to help you. If you going overseas, let's say you went on a short vacation to Italy last year, and for whatever reason, that alone says a lot about your character. It says that you're not afraid to go overseas. It says that you want to make new friends, or that you're good with making new friends, that you can engage in new cultures and food, and you can do this and this and that. It says a lot about your character. Travel says a lot about your character that you may take for granted. So it's important to write those experiences down. You can always use those in an interview. You can use them for just in day-to-day conversation. Whatever, it'll work. Because people love to hear other people talk about travel, and being considered worldly normally comes back to being a traveler, comes back to being someone who's not afraid to try new things. I mean, when people think of someone who's not afraid to try new things, they usually think of travel, not just silly things like jumping out of an airplane and bungee jumping and stuff like that. They think of stuff like going to Asia. That's really far if you live in the States. People probably think you're bold. You may not even be a bold person at heart. I'm not. But going all the way to Asia to live there for a year or whatever you're going to do seems crazy to some others. And it kind of makes you realize, it makes you learn a lot. It's going to make you learn a lot about yourself and other people. And it's going to help you benefit you in the long run. So that's all I have for part 3. And I'll see you guys in the next one.